There is a whole family of airdrops that never once looks at what your wallet traded. It does not care which contracts you touched, how many transactions you signed, or what you held at some hidden block. It looks at something else entirely, which is what your hardware actually did. Did your machine route real traffic, store real files, answer real requests, cover a real patch of the map? This is the world of running infrastructure to qualify, and it rewards a completely different kind of effort than the wallet farming most people picture when they hear the word airdrop. It is also, quietly, the category I understand best. I run real proxy and cloud phone farms for a living. So running actual infrastructure is not a metaphor for me. It is the day job. I treat airdrop farming as operations rather than a lottery. And this category sits right on top of the work I already do. None of what follows is financial advice. None of it predicts a token or a price. And nothing here promises you a drop of any kind. It is simply how this class of airdrop measures people, why it is harder to fake than it looks, and what holds up when the network decides who contributed. So start with what these networks actually are. The shorthand you will see is DePIN, which stands for Decentralized Physical Infrastructure. Instead of one company owning all the servers, the bandwidth, and the sensors, the network pays a crowd of ordinary operators to supply those resources from wherever they happen to be. You contribute something real: spare bandwidth, disk space, compute, wireless coverage, and the network measures how much genuine work you did. The reward, when there is one, flows to contribution. The farming here is not signing transactions in a browser. It is standing up a node that performs an actual service and keeping it running honestly for long enough to matter. This changes the shape of qualification completely. There is no clever sequence of clicks that gets you in, because the thing being measured is not a pattern of activity. It is a quantity of real output delivered over time. Uptime, reliability, the volume of genuine work your node handled, all of it accumulating slowly while the machine does its job. You cannot manufacture months of reliable service in a panicked weekend. The work takes real time to exist, which is why being early and consistent matters far more than reacting fast to a rumor. The honest core of all this is that the resource has to be real. A bandwidth node that routes no traffic, a storage node holding nothing anyone requested, a sensor reporting numbers it never measured. These are the exact things the network is built to catch. Serious networks challenge their own nodes constantly, asking them to prove they still hold the file, still carry the traffic, still cover the ground they claim. If your node cannot answer, it does not count, and it may be dropped. So the whole game is not tricking the measurement. It is genuinely doing the thing the network pays people to do, reliably enough that the proofs come back clean, because contribution is measured continuously. This behaves like one long assessment, rather than a single frozen moment. The network is effectively watching your node the entire time it is live, sampling whether it is up, responsive, and actually delivering. So consistency is everything. A node that runs quietly for months at high reliability will almost always score better than 100 nodes thrown up the week before a rumored distribution, because those latecomers have no history, no accumulated work, nothing but a sudden spike of presence with no track record behind it. Now the defensive part. Explain the way I always explain it, from the outside, and honestly. These networks know one operator will be tempted to fake being many, spinning up a rack of identical nodes and pretending each is a separate contributor. So they cluster, much like the chain analysis that defends wallet airdrops. A swarm of nodes sharing one IP range, one hosting provider, one autonomous system number, all appearing at once with identical configuration, reads as exactly what it is: one entity wearing many hats. I am describing how that detection works so you understand the terrain, not handing you a method to slip past it, because slipping past it is neither the point nor something I will coach. This is why great blocks of nodes sitting inside a single cloud region tend to get discounted, sometimes heavily. The promise of decentralized infrastructure is that it is genuinely distributed across many real locations and operators, not 1,000 containers breathing inside one data center rack. A network that wanted its resource from one data center would just rent the data center. The contribution these networks value most is the kind that is actually where it says it is. And the spoofed sea of clones in one region is exactly the pattern their clustering sees through. There is a cost reality here, that wallet farming does not have. Running infrastructure spends real money. Hardware wears out. The electricity meter runs, and the node online around the clock is an ongoing bill whether or not any token arrives. That pushes you back to the one rule I hold onto through all of this. Only run infrastructure you would be content to run for its own sake, because the service is useful to you, or the economics stand up on their own. If the node only makes sense as a bet on a drop that may never come, you are not farming. You are subsidizing someone else's network and hoping. The contributions come in a few recognizable shapes, and each measures a different real output. Bandwidth networks pay you to route traffic or serve content, so your node's value is the genuine data it carries. Storage networks pay you to hold files reliably and prove you still have them on demand. Compute networks, including the ones hungry for GPU power, pay for real processing you perform. Wireless and mapping networks pay for real coverage or sensor readings tied to a real place. They look different on the surface, but they share one spine. You supply a physical resource, the network verifies it is real, and it rewards the verified contribution rather than the mere claim of one. That verification step is what makes this category honest by design. The network cannot take your word that you stored the file or carried the traffic, so it demands proof, challenging your node at unpredictable moments and checking the answer. Proofs of storage, proofs of bandwidth, liveness checks, whatever form they take. They close the gap between claiming to contribute and actually contributing. For an honest operator, this is a feature, because it filters out the people gaming the surface without doing the work, leaving a larger share for the nodes that genuinely earned it. The winning posture, in one line, is reliability over raw scale. A few nodes you keep healthy, patched, online, and responsive carry more real weight than a large fleet that flickers on and off and misses half its challenges. Churn is penalized, downtime is penalized, and a node with a long, clean record is trusted where a brand new one is not yet. Depth on a handful of real contributions beats shallow presence across a swarm you cannot keep alive. MPAM Treasury's specific honesty point deserves naming plainly, which is location. Some of these networks care a great deal about where the contribution physically comes from, whether it is genuinely residential, genuinely in a given region, genuinely covering ground that was thin before, dressing a data center node up as a home connection, or claiming coverage of a place your hardware has never been, is exactly the misrepresentation the network is trying to keep out. And it is not something I will walk you through. The defensible position, the one that survives scrutiny, is running your contribution from where you actually are, and letting that plain truth qualify you. The risks in this category are real and worth stating without spin. You can spend genuine capital on hardware and bandwidth for a network that changes its rules, revalues its points, quietly deprioritizes your kind of node, or simply never distributes a token at all. Infrastructure is a heavier bet, because the money you put in is harder to get back out. So weigh it as what it is, a small business decision about running a service, not a free ticket. The networks worth your machines are the ones whose service you would be glad to provide even in the world where the drop never comes, and that filter alone removes most of the regret. Read the actual rules of each network too, because they genuinely differ. Some explicitly welcome operators running many nodes at scale. Some just as explicitly forbid more than one identity per person and design their reward curve around punishing concentrations. Those are opposite worlds, and assuming the wrong one can waste a season or get your contribution thrown out. I will not tell you a given network is safe, legit, or a scam as a blanket label, because that is not mine to declare in the abstract. Read what the team publishes, watch how it treats its operators, and judge it on what it shows you, rather than on the noise around it. Trinity Resins and Publishings Denton Filiket, Benny Summering Dias, Britain Panitinia, Benamai Benetitidisan, Benny Panitinos Plus no Minkin Pindid. Because contribution is measured across the whole stretch a node is live. There is no last-minute machine you can switch on to catch a window that scored months of uptime. The accumulated work cannot be backdated. A node started today has today's history, and nothing more, no matter how loudly a distribution is rumored. So the same calm conclusion holds. The only contribution that counts is the one already genuinely running before anyone was watching for it. Treat the whole thing with plain ops discipline. Keep an honest record of every node you run, its uptime, what it cost you each month, and whatever points or standing the network reports back. Then read that record without sentiment and prune. A node bleeding money for a network that has gone cold, or that plainly ignores the kind of contribution you provide, is a node to retire, and the resources it frees go to a healthier bet. The operators who do well are not the ones running the most machines. They are the ones who cut the dead nodes early. What actually protects you is contribution that would make complete sense even if no token ever existed. A node doing real work is indistinguishable from an honest operator for the simplest reason. It is one. There is no pattern to hide, no timing to guess, no cluster to slip out of, because you are not performing infrastructure. You are running it. If a node only earns its keep as a wager on a drop, I think twice. If it earns its keep as a service I am glad to provide, the drop, whenever and whether it lands, is a bonus on honest work. So the reframe I would leave you with is this. Running infrastructure to qualify is not a trick to outsmart a measurement. It is a decision to genuinely provide something a network needs and to do it reliably enough that no proof ever catches you short. Which physical infrastructure networks are actually worth running? How each one measures and verifies contribution. And the trackers I use to watch uptime and cost across a fleet are all written up in full at airdropfarming.org, with no hype and nothing there being financial advice or a promise about any drop. I farm these the boring, methodical way and write up what actually qualifies rather than whatever network is loud this particular week. Subscribe if you want the operator view of this, infrastructure run honestly rather than faked at scale, and the honest caveats left in every single time. Next time we take one real network from a bare machine through setup and into a full season of steady, verified uptime, and watch how genuine contribution earns its standing far more reliably than any rack of clones pretending to be a crowd.